Hey, Warners, welcome to another episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About. I had to think about it. I don't know. It's a Friday. I'm Gina master sales trainer at Sales Gravy, who sponsors this podcast. We're so thankful for that. And today in the house, a former paisan, and you would have to be Italian to understand that, is my new friend, Dan DeCapua, who owns the Spotlight Home Team Real Estate Agency in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm not going to go into all of his bio because you guys can read the show notes. Let's just jump on in with my new friend, Dan, from the Midwest and Italian. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's awesome to be on here with a fellow Italian. Have you ever been to Italy?
Yes, I have. I have been all over Italy. I have a favorite area of Italy. Well, my family is from the Naples area in a little town called Sanarchio, which no longer exists. But my favorite part of Italy is actually that southern region, specifically Sorrento and Capri. Those are my favorite places. Have you been?
Well, no, I've been to Olive Garden. So, I was pretty close, I had the breadsticks, but I have never been. But Stanley Tucci is making me so jealous if you watch that show.
No, what show is that?
It's phenomenal. He goes to every region of Italy and discovers the food. It's not Anthony Bourdain style. Stanley Tucci's his own, he's fantastic. But you got to watch it. It's on CNN. Stanley Tucci discovering Italy.
How did I not know this? I love Stanley Tucci. I'm really cracking up, though, at you because my husband, who's not Italian, is in love with the OG. He is in love with Olive Garden. He thinks it is Italian food.
It is. It's the tour of Italy. You got to go. You got to get that. And then you bring those breadsticks home in that bag, and they're just hard as a rock. You can,
It's blasphemous. It's blasphemous.
It's so bad.
And the only thing we got for as a wedding gift, because we've been married not quite a year yet, but as a wedding gift, we got an Olive Garden gift card.
Oh, yeah.
We finally used it the other day, and I couldn't even get into the soup. All I'm having is soup and salad. It's the only thing I ever ate there. Anyway, we digress. We've got a lot of things common, which I don't even know where to jump in, but our good mutual friend, Beth Incorvati, another Italian last name, brought us together.
Yeah.
She's also from a real estate background. And she's like, you have to meet Dan. You got to know Dan because Dan was a stand-up comedian and you're a comedian and you guys need to get together. And I'm like, yeah, anytime I can talk to any type of artist, because I have a true belief system that artists are the best salespeople.
Yeah.
And I'd love to start a movement. It's so funny. I'm performing in a show right now. Well, I'm in rehearsals for a show. And so half of us are my age and half are like college students and kids who just graduated with theater degrees. And I walked in, I was running late and the director gave me a hard time. I'm like, some of us have to work. And then I looked at the young ones and I go, you will all be in jobs one day that are not on stage. I don't mean to burst your bubble.
Oh, gosh.
You're going to be on a different stage. So you started in comedy. So I want to just take us on the journey because you were doing stand-up. Walk us through that journey a little bit before we get into Spotlight Home Team, because I'm dying to know, stand-up to real estate, go.
I know. I agree with you that we're artists. Salespeople, the best salespeople are artists, right? And if you can bring humor into your business, then you are going to be a phenomenal salesperson. Mostly it's about being present, right? And humorists know how to just be present, how to listen, how to, absorb information. And they're great teachers too, because humor holds everybody's attention when you're out there. Right. Yes. But we have a feud. I want to discuss this with you because I don't know if people talk about it, but there's an ongoing feud between stand-up and improv.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Where does this come from?
Because stand-up comedians are a little more self-centered than us improvisers who are ensemble based.
It is.
Ready? You ready? Let's go.
I know. Let's do it. Well, it's a team. You're a team sport. You're team comedy, right? Exactly. And we are all about self-centered. But so
we're all self-centered together.
Oh yeah, we're self-centered together. Yeah, you work Second City, Chicago. Beautiful theater, right? And I work Zanies.
Oh, yeah.
Old Town. Yeah.
In Old Town on Wells?
On Old Town on Wells, a converted peep show theater. And you got this beautiful setup down there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm over there at this building. But I mean, it's such a great town. It doesn't matter.
It is. And I spent many a night at Zanies because so many improvisers are stand-up comedians.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a really good point because that I want to differentiate for the person who's not like you and I. A couple things that like irritate me that I got a beef about. I don't know if you remember this. It was on Wells, but further south on Wells when the Improv.
Yes.
Right. I opened the Improv as a server, not as a comedian. And, you know, the Improv is a known club throughout the country, but it's actually not improv.
Right.
It's stand-up comedy. So that has confused audiences, you know, forever because they just automatically think the Improv, right? They're like, oh, do some stand-up for me. And I'm like, no, we don't. We don't do stand-up. We're improv. But it's called the Improv. And I'm like, yeah, well, blame what's his name for that. I don't, know really why he did that. But whatever. There is a clear difference between the two. Yeah. When I owned my improv theater and taught improv classes, and let's just clarify, we don't teach people how to be funny. We pull it out of them, right? Because it's innate. And so I can't teach you how to be funny. I can give you the frameworks on what to do to get there. But I would have my favorite students and performers were the ones who had zero experience and background, and they showed up raw, and I could, give them a foundation. The most challenging students were stand-up comedians.
Yes.
They came in with a very, when I joke about the self-centered, right? We all have egos, but as you know, the stand-up comedian is alone on stage.
Yes.
And the only person that they can play off of is the rest of the audience. There is an ensemble. We don't have a script.
Right.
And we have to rely on each other as a team to take some frameworks and turn that into something based on the audience. So we don't have a memorized set. So it can be dangerous feeling in like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the struggle bringing a stand-up comedian into an improv class, if they've never done improv, is they can't seem to break out of their I'm here alone piece of it. And they can't seem to collaborate. I had to really break them down to get them into collaboration. Now, what I've also seen is those improvisers who then go into stand-up have a way stronger foundation, and their timing is so impeccable because they breathe. And they're like, how's the audience reacting? And if you're good enough, I think, now I've done some stand-up and it's terrifying. It is terrifying to me. Like, I can't even keep a set memorized.
Right.
At all. Right. I'm reading the audience and then I'm like going on a different journey with them. What are your thoughts on all of this?
You're exactly right. Stand-up comedians they're not yes and team players, because when you're on stage, you're doing a lot of analyzing. So you're doing a lot of, okay, where's this next bit going to go? Where's this? How do I drive this crescendo up to the peak laughter? So when you translate that to improv, you're trying to control it to get to the point where you have a joke. So there's too much, the stand-ups that are in their heads and analyzing and are very scripted are going to really struggle in improv, where if you take somebody with a beginner's mindset with a clear mind and they get out there and they can just say, okay, and they go with the flow and they play the team game, it completely works. But stand up, some guys are great with the audience too. I think those stand-ups might convert to improv really well because they're open and they're out there. But I completely agree with you. Going improv to stand-up is good because you learn the timing. Right. Yeah. And you say, okay, this is the funny, but going blank inside your head, having that beginner's mindset is really tough for a stand-up to do that. That's used to feeding off the laughs. I need it. Give me the next laugh. Why is nobody laughing? And then you just get more frustrated.
Yeah. And those are the stand-ups that go, I want to go up there and help them because they go, that was funny.
Right.
That was funny, you guys. You guys could laugh at that. And I'm like dude, seriously, why did you
what?
That it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny to them.
No, it wasn't funny to them. And that's okay. Doesn't mean you're a failure inside. I mean,
Well,
move on.
that's it exactly. I think like the tiny tweak that they could use is the timing piece of it. This is the thing that we train for in improv is listening to audience reaction. We are analyzing in our head. We are, because we're listening and watching. Then if we get a really good reaction, we know, rule of 3, we can play that game 2 more times and heighten it. If they don't react, we're not quite sure because people react differently. And if they grunt or make a face, we know abandon ship, right? We don't try to play it. It's like, this audience does not like where we're going with this. Ooh, pivot. And to your point, there are a lot of stand-up comedians that are great with the audience, and a lot of them had improv backgrounds.
Yes. Yes, they do.
I would go up to, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so good with the audience. Like, have you done improv? And they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I've worked with some great people. And about 15 years ago, I was opening for Maria Bamford in Grand Rapids. And she was just not connecting with the audience. She would do her, she's got a very shtick that works for her, very Minnesota, and just not connecting, to the point where the manager said, you got to take over. You got to close the show. And they just, moved her down and moved me up. And just driving her back to the hotel, I remember her saying like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to Minnesota and have to work at Target, and I'm going to do all this. And I'm like, you know what? She's saying this, but I think she means it, because you take her same act and you bring her to Chicago. She just was not in front of the right people. But boy, she exploded a couple years later and got her own sitcom. And like, you've got to stick to it. Stick to who you are. The closer you are to your core, the better you're going to be. And I found that in sales too. There's a lot of fake personalities in sales out there. The closer to who you really are, your truer self, you're going to be better at sales. Stop putting on a show in front of the Rolls Royce. That's not who you are, and that's not the client you're going to attract. You're just putting on a show for everyone.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you segued into sales, because I wanted to jump on that, right? It's especially in sales too. There's so much that you can look at with this. Be exactly who you are. And I think so often people get stuck in imposter syndrome, and they get stuck in, let me be what that person wants me to be. And because you're not that person, there's an incongruency that the buyer can't quite put their finger on, but they feel like there's something off with you because you're actually not true to yourself, and it's coming out in other ways. And so, but people get scared to niche. One of the things that I learned years ago was my thing is improv and comedy in sales, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's my go-to. That's my niche. That's what I'm known for. And so in the beginning, it felt limiting, like, because it was hard, I had to learn how to sell it the right way. I was fearful because people, who did not want to buy improv-based sales training, they were not my audience. And I was afraid to walk away and go, it's okay, they're not my audience.
Yes.
Let me find my audience that resonates with this, and that's who I'm going to sell to.
Yeah.
How do you see that in your world in real estate?
I do see that's the big leap that people have to make, because I say my first few years in real estate, I didn't want to tell anybody that I'm coming over from stand-up comedy because of whatever stigma that people have about comedians. I mean, we love comedians. The stigma was something that I created, right? Oh, I'll never attract that buyer because they're going to think I'm a clown, and I'll go to show a house and like 12 clowns will jump out, like, right? So had to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? This is fine. So I put up a TikTok channel, The Funny Agent. I've got like 13,000 followers on there. Just have fun videos, because, sales can be really stressful, right? We get punched in the gut a lot. You need to have an outlet for that. And if you have an outlet on a daily basis or with your clients, and you can show your true self, you're just going to bond with those people. You're going to find your tribe and say, okay, these are the people I want to serve. If I'm not working with $1 million buyers every day and talking about swimming pools and shadow boxing, I don't want to talk about that anyway. I want to work with real people.
Yeah. And comedy in general, humor in general, always makes a scenario or situation better, right? It disarms
Yeah.
people, it takes the stress away. And I know real estate, buying and selling, can be slightly
Yeah.
stressful for both the buyer and the seller, not just the agent.
Yes, it is stressful on all ends of it. And any humor you can interject into it, you say, okay, well, because it's a scenario that's filled with fear from the beginning, right? I'm fear. Am I making the right choice? Am I doing this? Am I on the inspection? Oh my gosh, there's a broken window. Am I going to die here? So it alleviates that fear by bonding with somebody and letting them know, I really care about you, because we do care about people. If we put in enough energy to make them want to laugh and bond with them, then you do care about them.
Absolutely. So how did you go from doing comedy all over in clubs and on cruise ships? How did you go from that to real estate? Like, what was that turning point and why?
Yes. So making that, it was necessary because touring so much, being on cruise ships and going to clubs, it's a grueling life. So when I had kids, when my son was about 3 years old, I said, you know what? This is not a sustainable lifestyle to go around. I've got to find something a little bit more permanent. So I met an agent who'd taken us around to look at homes and was just so great. And I thought, well, this is a great way to bond with people. To do something that is really providing a necessary service. For me at the time, we didn't have any money. Come on, doing comedy, we had nothing. So he took us through loan and grant programs, and we were able to buy a house that we no way should have been able to buy because of all the concessions and repairs and things that we needed. But it's like, wow, he really helped us for this very low sale in the area I was looking at. I said, I want to help people and still be able to use some of the talents that I've acquired in the past. And it's just been over a decade doing it. And I love it every day.
Are you doing any stand-up at all?
No, but trying to get into the presenting world, which is a little bit different than, talking to club bookers, because they don't like the weed I'm sending them, I guess. I don't know.
So what kind of presenting?
So I'm teaching continuing education courses, talking about value. I'll talk to you about ChatGPT and AI. Those are crazy programs that are going to affect our industry, but just getting out there in front of realtors and saying, okay, I'd love to give a presentation, a keynote on any of these topics. So if you're looking, I'm out there.
Fantastic. I would love to have you come back and talk about ChatGPT if that's something that you're open to. I'd love to do an episode on that. And so if you got thoughts on that would be great. And I asked about the presentation piece because that's what I found in my kind of leap. I mean, I kind of had a little bit of intentionality when I started the Improv Comedy Theater, was to actually take it into a corporate sphere. I did not expect to be a keynote speaker, and it kind of sort of happened. People would ask me to come to a Rotary Club and talk about improv, and I'd be like, all right. And in South Carolina, where that just wasn't that popular, and the more I did it, people were like, God, you're so funny and engaging. I'm like, okay. They're like, can you come speak at this thing about this thing? And I'm like, sure. And next thing you know, I'm speaking everywhere, which was not my intention. But what I really learned is that what we do as performers really gives us presentation skills and not being fearful to get in front of a crowd and speak and know how to read the audience. And I'm surprised you're not already doing that. So you put a little effort into that, and I think you'll kill it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a great, I love it. And I've worked the Rotary Club before.
Right. You have to.
Different. Right. You have to. It's open mic. Right.
You got it. It's an open mic, and it's a way to get in front of people. That's how I really built my business. Was I would call them the Rotary Club Tour. I'm doing the Rotary circuit, 7 clubs in Myrtle Beach, and I did every club. I'm like, it's time to talk about something new. Now you have grown Spotlight Home Team. In 2021, you did 82 million in sales. You didn't just let me do real estate. No, 82 million. That's insanely, it's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I have a great team working for me. You attract good agents in this business, and you keep them, and you teach them how to serve their clients, and it just keeps working giving value to the community, getting known more. Real estate, you don't jump into it with all these $1 million. This isn't selling sunset, So we're trying to grow organically as people together and just have fun doing it.
As a leader, how do you attract and retain really good agents? Because that can be all across the board. And I know a lot of brokers who struggle, and they've got great agents and they've got agents that are not so great. So as a leader, how do you attract and retain? Part one. Part two, what makes for a good agent? So two-part question.
Two-part question. I think you answered this question a little bit earlier when we were talking about stand-up and improv and who you're looking for. And if you just had a room full of people and okay, this person, they're stand-up, you can kind of identify who the team player is. And that's who you're looking to attract, is you're looking to attract the team player to a team, somebody that's played sports, somebody that understands how important the collaboration is. And you got to keep out like the prima donnas, right? You don't want that type of agent on your team, the me, look at me scenario. So right from the beginning, if somebody has a team background or they work at a bartending staff, all my guys came from different industries. They were bartenders, servers, used car salespeople, but they all got used to working on a team and understood the importance of it. The mistake that a lot of brokers and recruiters make is they recruit 100 people looking for the diamond in the rough and not being honest and saying, you need to develop this skill set. You need to have some sort of sales skills and then come back to us and then say, now you get the hang of it. Because you can't just throw somebody into a 1099 situation living off a commission and always expect success from them. You need to really set them up for it.
Yeah, interesting. I had Ryan Serhant on the show recently, and we were talking about, similarly, the people that he has on his team, right? He wants people that are high achievers and have been doing it for a little while. Like they have to have, and they have to be persistent, right? You want that kind of quality.
Yeah, the hungry, humble, and smart. Is what you're looking for.
Yeah, you want that. But what about that agent that's like, I don't have the experience? What advice would you give? We see this in sales too, right? I've had clients say to me, well, we're going to hire a whole bunch of salespeople and see who lasts. I'm like, why are you going to go through? Yeah. It's sort of like selling that way too. When you I'm going to spray and pray. I'm going to throw out all this marketing to people that are not even my ideal client to see what sticks. Like that's a lot of energy, resources, money. Yeah. So how do we help these young reps, no experience? And I've had them come my way too for coaching and and I'm like, how many homes have you sold? None. I'm like, how many listings do you have? 0. I'm like, so what's in your pipeline? Nothing. I'm like, I can't coach you. Yeah. You actually need some money. Come to me with I need a silver bullet mentality. Yeah. Okay. This is a very long lead up to the question. So what would your advice be to these people who don't have the experience?
Well, it's okay to do a side gig, and it's something that we can talk about. Right now, I think there's more agents than there are home for sales, and a lot of people are going to get out of the business. And if you have to take a side gig, if you got to drive Uber, if you got to go back to where you were before, that's okay. But I would tell agents, you need to really invest in yourself. So I would do a gig. I get paid $250, go do a gig. I would take that. I would spend that on online advertising because I knew I needed to stack it to get to the next level. So if you don't have the money to invest in yourself, it's going to be really tough. But coming from comedians, coming from people that aren't afraid, find out what your passion is and play off on that. If you're into running or cycling or tennis, find those people, get in that organization. That's going to be the core of what's going to build your business. You're going to find a couple people from there and you're going to grow roots. So if you haven't sold before, that's okay, but understand your passion, understand your people, find them and say, those are the people that are going to really trust me. And I would say in real estate, join a team where you can actually have a mentor. You can have somebody coach you, because the last thing you want to do is sell your, relative a house and really screw up the sale because you didn't have anybody looking over you. And there's definitely that lack in our industry of oversight and mentorship.
And would you agree that their heart has to be into actually wanting to sell real estate?
Absolutely. I ask people when you interview them, ask them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, I see myself flipping houses or flipping Doesn't matter. If the answer is anything other than being successful in this industry and living out, my ideal life, then no. I mean, that's a terrible answer to that question. You need to be devoted to it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a market that is a huge relocation market. And, I could probably throw a stone and hit 100 agents outside my window, right? There's so many agents and so many of them like, I'm just gonna do real estate. I'm gonna do some real estate on the side. And I've had some brokers say to me, I don't want the person doing real estate on the side. No. It has to be like the main focus. I think that's with anything you're selling. Like that's got to be your main focus.
Absolutely. You have to want to bring value to people from your inner core, and that will lead to a lot of money later on, right? Find a segment of people, bring them as much value as possible. How much value are you bringing if you've only sold 1 or 2 houses? Well, your value then at that point, because everybody starts somewhere, is being the best listener possible, finding all of the answers you possibly can too.
Yes, and use your yes and skills. You've got a unique, at least this is what your website says.
Yeah.
That you attribute the success of Spotlight Homes to your unique marketing and advertising strategies, persistence for real communication, positive approach, and like we just talked about, love of real estate. Talk a little bit about unique marketing and advertising strategies. What are some examples of that?
Well, when you don't have a big budget, this is a great question. I used to make my own postcards. So I would buy the thick, find out whatever the post office would send, buy that paper, and I would put funny messages on them. I would just put postcards cry when you throw them away. And I'd put that and I would put just sold on the other side. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, just finding, and that was a way to really build humor into the business early on when I'm working with such a limited budget, cutting them out myself and sending them and just being yourself in everything you do. When I put the funny agent TikTok, when I put up a funny video out there, people come and, say, hey, I like your personality. I'd love to work with you. It's good to have all of that out there. It doesn't have to be sales related. We're in the entertainment/sales business now too. People want to see your personality.
Well, I was just going to say that this is where the personal brand piece becomes so important, especially in real estate, right? As an individual agent and you're overseeing your own profit center, right? People are buying you because they need someone that they can trust in this process that is really stressful. I think comedy is a really good angle. I'm sure that some of your agents are like, I'm not funny like Dan. Oh God, what am I going to do?
Right. You don't
He's the funny agent.
You're gonna bring the funny. Yeah. By the way, that joke on that postcard comes from an old Mitch Hedberg joke that I heard him tell. And it was, how people hand you stuff on the street. It's just like saying, hey, here, you throw this away.
I love it. What else do you do for marketing and advertising strategies?
Well, I think YouTube has been really big and people are coming back to the long form video. We'll do that. But also quarterly, we send out items of value, which are really important to get to your base, just to remind them. We do this as a team. So we'll say, okay, let's find some of the top rated contractors in the area, people recommended. We ask our clients, hey, who do you recommend as a contractor? Who do you recommend as a painter, a dog sitter? And we'll put them on a sheet and we'll send that out. And then we'll say, okay, we live in but people are very concerned about the environment. So we'll say, okay, where can I recycle batteries? Where are the composting stations? We'll put together a list. We'll send that out. I think we're working on a lot in the downsizing market here too. As the population ages, we have a real housing crisis and people have a lot of stuff. They've lived in their home for generations. So I sponsored a book from a local author and it was all about downsizing. There's a page about me in there and about the team. send it out to our entire sphere and say, who's interested in downsizing? Who wants to know more about that? I am not the one that asks, hey, can I get a referral? Can I get a referral? Can I get a referral? I want to find out your pain point. What is stressing you out today? And fill that with value. Are you moving your parents? Are you stressed about that? Okay, how can I help you in some way? And the referrals come organically. I do not constantly ask.
I love it. I love it. So, there are all kinds of different schools of thought on how to get business, right? There's the outbound, here's the old school prospecting kind of way. They asked me this the other day of like, what is because we were talking about sequencing in our prospecting, right? All the different touch points that we can have. And someone said, what is your best first touch point? Right? Because we preach and teach at Sales Gravy that it should be a phone call. And for me, it's situational. It depends on the type of prospect in the list. If it's the first touch is a phone call. And it was an interesting question to get because no one's ever asked me that. What's your best first touch? I'm like, my best first touch is when I'm actually in front of a group of people. That's my best first touch because they get to experience how I train or how I speak or how I coach. And that always spreads like wildfire. Referrals actually come to me, like you said, without asking for them. Like that's my best first touch. So I think with that being said, you have to capitalize and leverage. What's your thing? What are you really good at? I love this concept of like what you're doing with this, find the pain point and then provide that value, doing something like that. And then you become that person they think about.
Right. That's it. It's because, okay, I'm a first-time home buyer. What's a first-time home buyer thinking about? Well, they're thinking about the money they need to save. So it's okay, here's all the grant programs available. I'll give that to you, right?
Oh.
Here's a $5,000, and have a list of all this.
Awesome, things. Dan.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to give that to the $1 million home buyer, right? Because it's going to speed away. So.
Right. It's not their pain. What a great idea.
Absolutely. So find that. And I teach that to the agents. We've got to really get down to the core. And you can only do that by asking questions, really getting to truly know people.
And what's your suggestions and strategy on asking really good questions?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, first because I listen to my agents' phone calls. It can be painful sometimes, but asking the questions that beyond the basic, because real estate's really easy. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms?
Oh, yes.
Right. Ask people, what do you like to do? What's your passion? Oh, I love to cook. Ever since COVID, I did this. Oh, so you want a big kitchen, or you want open, you want to gas this. If you ask about what people's interests are and not just all of these static things, how many square feet? Like, I don't know how many square feet, I can't put that together, but do you like open concept or cozy? So figure out a more creative way to get people to engage with you beyond the basics.
Yeah, have a real human conversation, right? Nothing drove me crazier. We had our house built that we're in right now. We closed last year in August, so we haven't even been in it for a year. There was no inventory, so we had to build. And every home builder we walked into, I just wanted to poke my eyes out because they were also getting fat and happy because they, everybody was coming in and they didn't really have to sell. And it just had poor attitudes when you would walk in. And when I say poor, it was just like stressed out attitudes of like, this is what we got. This is what you get. You don't get to pick anything. So if you're okay with that. And I'm like, wow, love your job a little bit, please. Yeah. Like, I'm like, we're like the perfect buyer. We've got no debt. We got money to put down. We're not stressing about when we move. Like, we were in a really good situation. I'm like, you should be like ecstatic. I'm the buyer that, gonna spend money, but is not gonna stress you out about it. Right. And then I would like start to look at, I'm like, I want to see what kind of models you have. And they're like, well, here, right, this one, this 3-bedroom here, that's what everybody's getting. And I'm like, I don't want a 3-bedroom.
Right.
Like, ask me what I do because I work out of my home and I need a studio. Like, if you knew that, then you might think differently. Like, Oh, she's going to need a bigger space to do this and that. And I've got a stepson and he's with us 50% of the time, right? Need a space for him and he's got interests and I want him to have his, not just his own bedroom, but a gaming room, like all these things, right? Like you could have found all that out to find out that, no, I need a 5-bedroom house.
Yeah.
I need a 5-bedroom house. Where the 5-bedroom house? That's what I need.
Since builders were so used to pre-COVID, right? Okay, you went to work, you went 9 to 5, you did that. It's like now people want an office. They want a place for their Peloton to hang their shirts on. Looking at mine, right? So it's really, the industry's changing. You got to go with it. But you're right. The builders got fat and happy. They reduced commissions for realtors who were the ones who were asking that question and getting to know the buyers and served a really important purpose as the consultant and the go-between. And they could say to the builders, listen, can you put HDMI cables up there? Because they're going to hang TVs here. I know these guys. And they said, okay. So started to see less value from realtors who are really the ones getting to know the clients. Reminds me of Office Space when they cut out, I forgot his name, but they're like, I'm the one that talks to the engineers. That's what I do. I bring them the paper. It's like, no, your job's gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have red carpet service. What does that mean?
You know what? It means I need to update the website you're looking at because I'm not sure.
That's okay. Well, okay, so
maybe
you've
it's
got
white glove now.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so now it's white glove. So I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help you with things like this. Red carpet, white glove, same kind of thing because it's about it's about your reputation on how to provide them a top quality experience. Like that's what I think of when I hear red carpet or white glove. So let's talk about the white glove service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's talk about that, and then we're gonna call your web person and get that fixed.
Yeah, we'll edit that real quick, but we'll put it in Chat GPT and write us a whole new SEO. So
perfect! I love it.
Yeah, but no, I mean our agents really get to know people. It's not about, you won't see me out there holding trophies, and it's that agent time of year when I go and I'm like, whoa, I'm friends with too many agents on Facebook because everybody's holding up a trophy, top 17% in the East Side. So getting to know the client is really, really important. It's like getting to know your audience. You're walking out on a cruise ship. I got in trouble working for Carnival because we would do a show in the theater and we would have hundreds of people and you'd look down and you see kids, and then we do a show at midnight, the dirty show. And the cruise ship director's like, you got to be dirtier. You got to be dirtier. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay. How can we be dirtier? But you're doing 2 shows, Improv. The first one is a little bit cleaner. The next one, everybody's drunk.
Exactly. Well, that is flexing to the audience.
Yeah.
Flexing to the audience, getting back to knowing your audience and knowing how your audience wants to be treated. Mm-hmm. Right. Videos. I forgot to ask this. Like I haven't watched your TikToks, but I'm assuming you're doing some kind of like comedic type of videos with your videos. Yes or no?
Oh, yes. We have the funny agent on TikTok. We have a lot of fun. My videographer, we go out, we shoot TikTok is very short form, but I think you'll like some of my satirical videos on there.
Are they anywhere else? Because my husband made me delete TikTok off my phone.
Oh, yeah. You got all.
I know. I mean, he's not really in charge, but I let him think he is. And we have the thing like, I'm in charge, but he gets the last word, something like that, or vice versa. That's our running joke. But he's a police officer, so he's get that off your phone. So is there anywhere else I can see your videos?
Yes, you can go on Instagram. You can link through thefunnyagent.com. I've got some on YouTube. So
good. Because I want to check those out. I'm assuming that's pretty effective because people love comedy.
Yeah, people love comedy. And again, it's just like another billboard saying that, okay, this is a kind of person that I would love to work with. I'm going to go on a home tour. We're going to have fun. I'm not going to say, this is a foyer or whatever. This is where you hang your coat up. No, we're going to have fun. We're going to go through. We're going to have a great experience.
Okay,
red carpet. In fact, we're going to have a red carpet experience.
Awesome. I'm going to go check those out because I love some good comedy. We've got to wrap up, unfortunately, but I would love to have you come back and talk about ChatGPT and anything else you want to talk about. Maybe we'll have your website updated. We'll talk about your white glove service or your red carpet experience, or we'll make up, we'll make up something new. Maybe it's a white carpet service. I don't know. We'll come up with something new. But if people want to reach out to you, and maybe they're in the Michigan area and they, want to get involved with you with real estate, or they want to go watch your funny videos. I know you've mentioned a couple things. Thefunnyagent.com is one way to reach out to you, correct?
Funnyagent.com, Spotlight, hometeam.com. You can find me on all of those channels, and TikTok, The Funny Agent. Love to speak at your next event. If you're looking for a home, I'm open for anything. And Gina, I want to suggest you need to read Rick Rubin, The Creative Act. Or listen to it on Audible.
Okay.
Because it is all about artists and sales. And I can't tell you how much I got out of this book. It's amazing.
Okay. Thank you. I am going to go look for that. I'm in the middle of writing a book right now called Sell Like a Child. So it's taking that creative angle from children. So I'm always looking for some really good content or someone I can collaborate with on content. Will you come back to the show?
Of course I will come back, and I'll have a more exciting background when there's not a snowstorm.
Hey, you got a snowstorm going on. I totally get it. It's been awesome having you on the show today.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Well, Warners, it's time to wrap up this show. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About, brought to you by Sales Gravy. And hey, if you need to up-level your sales game, go check out salesgravy.university. We've got nearly 200 or more, I've lost track, courses, both live and on demand, several of which I teach live, and have several that are on demand. So go check that out. And for more information about our show, you can go to womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com or salesgravy.com. And of course, we're all over the socials. See you next time.